Hello, I'd like to showcase today two new modules available for the ICU Workbench. They're MultiTrack Compare, and the second is our Advanced MultiTarget Correlation Engine. I'd like to start with the MultiTrack Compare. You'll notice I've started the application. This is version 2.2 alpha of our ICU Workbench solution. No tracks are currently selected. I'm simply going to click on the Compare tab, which is going to bring up a dialog box allowing me to manage the tracks. For this case, I'm actually going to select a number of tracks that we were given from Florida, the Tampa Bay area. Clicked on those. I'm going to say OK. The map will zoom in to the area of operation for those targets. And then you'll see I've got a bunch of names listed at the top with dates. I can use the left slide bar for the left target, in this case Adams, and if I move it around, it scales all of the other columns with it proportionally. So here I jiggle that around until I get it where I want it to be, and then I'm going to select a date, and I'm going to take July 9th here as a good sample. Sorry, that's June 9th. July 9th is a sample. And so I do have data for all the targets at this time. And you can see they're all color-coded here. As I right-click on this, I can change the date individually for all the targets that are up there using the Change Date selection tool. I can actually add more days for that target. I can look at 2 days of this target Adams as well as more. I can remove this guy entirely. I can get some reporting off them if I sort of want to see from a text-based perspective what the target was up to, and I can also change the line color. I've got some options there. In this case, it does default to a fairly nice palette of colors, and that's going to be fine. And I can simply walk through this and say I want to know what everyone was doing at 8 o'clock in the morning. I can click on those, and I shift click to select multiple cells. In this case, I want to know what everyone's doing at 8 o'clock in the morning. Update the map. And here you can see I've got all the targets starting to move around. If I dig in here a little deeper, you can see what those guys are doing. Some of them haven't left home yet, and that's fine, etc. Something interesting we can do as well is do what's in this version. Again, this is an alpha version, but we can do multi-track playback now. This may be a little bit tough to see here because I've selected so many targets, but as I zoom in, I now have a new playback tool that says, do I want to see trailing icons? Do I want to see a breadcrumb behind it, or do I want to see a trailing line? I like the trailing line myself. I'm not going to bother having the map auto center, and I want to see the amount of data that I've selected, in this case an hour, and I want it played back in 1 minute. So now I have control over how long I want the playback to take place. And as I click go here, you can see the start of the hour, this target's moving. And now we've got a second target moving. And we've got the third target moving. And you can see the time is here, recording in the actual time of the track. And finally the hour is complete, and it recenters. So again, that's a little bit of a view of our multi-track playback that we think is pretty interesting. I can go through here and manage the tracks. I can bring guys in and out of the set that I want to view. And as I mentioned, I can say, listen, this guy, I don't want to see the same day for all of these targets. I want to see Monday of this guy and Tuesday of that guy and Thursday of this guy and whatever I want to get whatever view. I can also see a bunch of days of Adam and a few days of these other guys if that's something that's important to see, but I can get all that data on the map. Fairly easy to use, I think. The playback is compelling. Some of this may need some tuning. We look forward to our customers' feedback. This module is not sold with the advanced multi-target correlation engine. It needs to be bought separately. I'd now like to showcase our advanced multi-target correlation engine. It's a new product that will take a file folder of tracks and do an end-to-end correlation between places that those targets have visited and display those in a very nice way. And just before I get into it, there's a piece that I did want to show to make sure that that you understood how to do it. In this case, I'm at the Tracks tab here, and I just want to show you how you manipulate tracks. If I want to make a folder to do a compare on, all I do is right-click on a track, and I'll be very clear there. It's not right-clicking on a view, but actually at the track level, and I want to assign to a folder. Now I can assign that to a new folder called, in this case, call it new. And so I've got a new folder that track and the views associated with are in, and then I can do the same thing again and assign this to the folder new. And that's how I can build up a folder of tracks that I want to do a multi-target correlation with. Because as I said, you do the correlation. You define what folder you want correlated, and all of the tracks in that folder get correlated. And the next piece is that when you have the tracks in there, they actually have to have views in order to correlate them. So you have to have tracks in a folder, and then all of the tracks in that folder have to have views generated for them in order for the correlation engine to take place, or correlation to take place. So I'm going to go to the multi-target tab here quickly, and you can see that the paradigm is as it is with the rest of the application. You've got the map on the right hand side, and in this case it's telling us that there's no analysis set loaded. So what I want to do is I want to do a new analysis set, and it's going to come up here, and I'm going to spend a few minutes on this dialog box. It's saying, what folder do I want to analyze? Well, much like the multi-track compare, I want to look at the Florida data that we've got. So I'm going to click on that, and I've got some options here that I want to talk quickly about. All of this is detailed in the user manual that we have for the multi-target product as well. But we can generically look at two different types of events. We can look for meetings, and meetings are obviously when two targets or more are at the same location at the same time. I can also look at what we call dead drops, and that's where a target comes to a location, spends some amount of time there, and we can threshold that, and then leaves, and then in another window, another target shows up at that same location and spends some defined amount of time there. So the cases where somebody drops something off, and then another target comes to pick it up, 12 hours later, something like that. Well, the dead drop can actually be used for something else that I'm calling finding a depot. And that's where you, and a great example of that would be a drug stash house, where one target drops the drugs off at that house, and then a bunch of other targets over the next week come back to that location to actually get the drugs and distribute them. Now we can find that by finding meetings, because meetings not only finds actual meetings where targets are there at the same time, it also finds common locations that the targets have. So you can see where stash houses may be, but dead drops, as you expand some of the parameters on dead drops, can help you find different things. I will let that I'll let you use the tool to see how it fits your operations best. I'm going to focus on meetings specifically for this demo, and I might show a little bit of dead drops. The dead drops in the end. Dead drops are a little bit hard to find in the sort of pedestrian data that we've got, but I certainly have found what we call depots in the dead drop. So, as I say, I've selected the Florida folder, to analyze. I'm going to look for meetings in here. I'm going to keep this stuff all stock. We've got a few slide bars that we can manipulate. One is spatial proximity. How close do the targets have to be before there's a visit? We're saying 175 meters. The drop-off allowance here is they have to be at the same place at the same time. I could jiggle that up to say, well, they just have to be close, to a car dropping somebody off. We'll pick up the fact that the car stopped and get a visit, but that doesn't have to be necessarily at exactly the same time. In this case, I want them to be there at the same time. And then another one is the visit overlap duration. In this case, I'm saying the fact that they're there together for the length of a visit is something that I'm interested in. So, in this case, it's 30, 60 seconds, whatever it is, up to 7 days. And you may want to, again, if you're looking for the behavior of a vehicle, the fact that the guy's car is parked there for a week, you may not care that somebody else happened to show up in the same parking lot at an airport. So you can tune this in if that's what you want for your mission. So here, I'm going to click on this, and you'll see this run in real time. And you see it's got the targets that we've gotten out of the Florida data. There's 6 of them here, and we've completed the correlation. You'll see we've got Adams through Spizak on the left, and again, that's correlating against themselves. You see we've grayed out the center here to see how they relate to each other. So what this is telling us, and the legend at the bottom will show that to you, is gray is that they're sharing meeting locations, and if you roll over that, it tells you Adams and Melton have 2 locations in common, but there are no meetings. No meetings by the definition of those sliders that I just showed you in that dialog box. Or we can go over here and say Cabrera and Raymond actually have 26 locations in common. One shared location actually has been found to involve a potential interaction or a meeting. And that's some of the stuff that we want to investigate. So I'm going to right-click on Raymond here, and it's going to say examine the locations for this track. And it comes with 3 meeting locations here. They're listed there, and it says who is at these locations. And in this case, we found Raymond and Spizak at this location, and we found Cabrera and Raymond at this location. And we've selected to look at it from Raymond's perspective. That's what he's the common element here. So I'm going to, again, right-click here, and I've got a couple options here. I want to get the shared location profile. Option 1, 2, examine the potential interactions at this location. 3, zoom to the location. Or I can edit the location and name or adjust the level of interest for this. I'm going to first zoom into the location so we can get a little bit of spatial perspective on what's going on. And here you can see there's a building there, and as I zoom in, I've got a nice 3D map from Google of that building. And you can see there's 2 pins there. One's a little bit hidden, but we can get that if we click on it. Great, so we know where that is and have a picture of it. I now want to get what we call the shared location profile. And this is kind of one of the, outside of that first grid that I showed you, this is one of the most important pieces here. And here we've got a report that we generate that we can call the shared location profile. And we've got a little bit of a map here to give you a little bit of spatial context of what's going on. And also, so you can print this thing out and get all that you need. It also has calendars up here. In this case, there's 3 months worth of data, and it's showing us the 3 calendar months. If we had 6 months worth of data, it's still only going to show us the 3 months, but it's going to give us a couple arrows at each side so we can advance and move forward and move back through the calendars. And what it's done now, you can see it's got a gray bar across that week of data, and that's what it's showing us. It's taken us to the week that there is actually a meeting. You can see some gray bars under other days, and that's saying that one of the targets was at this location, but there was no meeting shown. So we've just accelerated to the week of the first meeting, and you can see that Raymond and Spizak were at that location at 8 o'clock in the morning or 9 o'clock in the morning, and as I roll over that, it's going to give us the details of that. At 8:40 a.m., the 2 targets were there, and that's interesting, right? We've just boiled that all down, and at 9:03, Raymond arrived at that location. Very quick, I can then go click on the calendars here and see the next week. Well, they were both there, and this may actually have been picked up if we'd analyzed it from a dead drop perspective. But you see Raymond was there one day on the Wednesday, and the following day Spizak was there, but they weren't there at the same time. Move to the next week, there was another meeting, and it's between Raymond and Spizak on the Thursday. And the next week, again, back to that same slot we saw here. Well, we know what these guys are doing. They're high-risk offenders in Tampa, and they're visiting the court here to get whatever, to check in their alcohol program or whatever they're doing. But they are at the same locations. We know that this is actually a meeting. They're at the courthouse at the same time. So this is kind of one of the linchpin pieces of our view. It's giving you the reverse geocoded address here if you've got that. It's giving you the date range for the data. 3 months are available, and as I said, 3 months are visible. The analysis set, the folder that we're analyzing is Florida, and the selected date. We selected August 7th. And then a legend here to say, well, what's the context of this? Of this? Is it in this case most interesting? It's a meeting down to no meeting. And we can print this off to save it. So next thing I can come in and say, geez, those guys were there at the same time. I can examine the potential interactions for this location. You see there's 3 of them here. And I can open this up and say, oh, great, I'll select this one that happened on July 19th, Tuesday. That was the first one that I showed you. And I want to select these 2 guys here and say, great, update the map and show me what's going on with these guys. And you can see there's the 2 targets coming in. The colors are different. Let me just see if I can change the colors here. So we'll get one guy in red instead of green. Great. So now I can see the 2 targets coming in. My 3D building is obscuring one of them. But you can see one guy coming in and coming to this location. The other guy's parking his car or whatever he's doing out there. But you can see what they're doing. And I say, oh my gosh, this is a meeting. I want to set up a confirmed meeting, and this is how I persist the meeting to the 2 or all of the targets that are involved in this meeting. I set up a confirmed meeting, and that takes me back to entering in an external event that is already populated with all the stuff that you're going to need. It's a meeting. We've got the meeting icon there. The name is the meeting here. It's going to publish it to the 2 tracks. In this case, there's only 2 targets involved in the meeting. It's got the date when the meeting took place, and the times are already filled in, and I simply add that. Now, July 19th, if I go back to the itinerary panel for Raymond or Spizak, there's going to be an event published there, and as I go look at the event, it's going to say he was at a meeting with Raymond was at a meeting with Spizak at this time at this location. So it allows you to document the track so you don't lose that when you're looking at the individual targets, our individual targets view of the tracking data. Then I can back out of this. Now, great. There's another couple things. I've shown you the first thing. You can edit the name and the location and adjust the LOI. That's as long as you know that it's there, you'll know how to exploit that. There's another piece though. This is showing all of the meetings, and I say, well, I want to see if there's common locations between all these guys. Maybe these guys are using some kind of a depot or drop system, and I want to know what the common ones are. Well, I've only included in this view the locations that have interactions. I want to see all of the locations that are in common. So all I do is click this button here, and I get a big laundry list now of all of the locations that they've got in common. And you can see as I slowly roll down here, there's a few of them that have all three cells filled. And let's just pick on one of them right here. Great. So here's one, Orient Road in Tampa. All of them have been at this location or in that proximity. I'm going to zoom into it. There we go. So now it is stretched over a little bit of a geography. However, as you saw when I was setting the analysis parameters, I can shrink that down to get this to be a little tighter. But in this case, these guys all could be interacting there. And again, I'm going to go and get a shared location profile for this. Now, what I can use this for is to see, are there patterns in there in terms of, did someone come there and then there's a burst of all the other targets showing up, or are they coming sporadically? And I can get a nice view of what's going on. So there, Raymond was there that week. Raymond was there the following week. Let's see if we can get a little more density here. There we go. We've got Collins was there. Then the next day, Spizak was there, and the following day on Friday, he went back again. It's giving you a real nice view of how much activity is going on at this location. Again, if this was a bomb maker's house, you know, are they all? Is there a sequence of events? One guy comes and drops all the stuff off. The next guy makes the fuse. The next guy makes, you know, the detonator device. The next makes the activator. And if they were broken up in that kind of functionality and how they operate, you'd be able to see some of that in the track. In this case, it seems pretty sporadic. I'm not seeing patterns there, but that is the intent of that. And I can also adjust, as always, what you see on the map in the end is a default. If I'm not happy with the analysis, I can click on the revise the analysis. For in this case, if I wanted to shrink that geography up, because I say, listen, if they're not in this parking lot, that I don't want 175 meters. I want this to be 100 meters. I want to split that up and get this guy out of here. I can go click on revise analysis and get at that. Go back to the track-to-track piece that I was showing you. You'll see now there are tabs in here, because I have documented that there is a confirmed linkage between between Spizak and Raymond, and it's telling me that there's one confirmed meeting between these guys. So I've looked at this level. I can actually drill in and see, well, show me the interactions between Collins and Raymond. I can go into that cell and say, examine the locations in common for these two tracks. Now, I have this clicked, so it's showing me all of the common locations that these guys share. It turns out there's only, what, 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 of them, so there's not a whole lot of them. Easy for me to go on a case-by-case or line-by-line basis and see what's going on here. If I had, however, not clicked this on, no surprise, it shows up with nothing. Well, as we go back to it, it's telling us that there are no meetings there. It's gray. It's saying there are no meetings here. So when we're looking for meetings, it's not going to come up with anything. So when I examine it, you can see it comes up with nothing. I just show this to say, show me all the common locations, and that shows me the spots here. And again, easy for me to zoom in on these guys, take a look at them on a line by or case by case basis, line by line basis, and figure out what the targets. Well, it's the same spot we were just at, so that's a pretty bad example, but and see what's going on. That's obviously a common location. One of those targets was not there with the rest of them. So here's another one, and again, easy for me to go in and get that shared location profile and see, you know, is there some pattern going on here that we're interested in? Well, in this case, all of the common activity at this place happened over that three week spot, and that's it. But it's still very quick to get. I guess that's the piece that I'd like to stress. You see this thing run, and in that case, 2 minutes to do, correlate 6 tracks, each having 3 months worth of I think it's 1 minute fixed data. It took about 3 minutes. How much effort that would be to get at it using manual processes would be hard to a little bit hard to fathom. Right. So and you can get at it from, of course, both axes here. You can pick whichever one you're comfortable with. These things move. If you want to make one guy prominent for some reason, that's fine as well. So now I'd like to show you a bit of the analysis we can do to try and find dead drops. And you'll see we've got the app is opened up. I don't have an analysis set loaded. I want to load a new one actually, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. The data that I do want to load isn't actually the Tampa data from a federal organization. We were given tracking data coming from a human smuggling ring, so I'm going to go and get that. And instead of looking for meetings, I'm going to look for a dead drops. And you see the tool actually has remembered. The last time I ran this was the same thing. I am going to not look for dead drops here, but actually that depot concept. In this case, the human smugglers, they needed a bunch of resources that they would centralize at a place, and then trucks and guys would be going back after the a shipment was made, and they'd be going back to draw down on that inventory. And I'll show you an example of that as well. So that, again, dead drops, we don't have data that really has guys doing dead drops that we know of anyways, so it's hard for us to ferret that out. But in this case, there is some depot activity, and I'm gonna draw your attention to that. So we're gonna run this again. I've set the folder to be the NCIS folder where the data is. I've run views on them all already. I've set it to dead drops. I did modify this parameter to look for that, again, that depot behavior that I was talking about, where somebody's dropping something off and then over a period of time people are coming back and visiting that location. So we're running this in real time. You can watch it as it goes. These vehicles are actually, instead of having names on them, they're the names of the vehicles that they were tracking. So there we've completed the analysis, and we're just going to zoom in on the Virginia Beach area. That's where this human smuggling ring was operating, and you see the vehicles here: Audi, Black Titan through to White Van. So this is a little bit of a canned showcase here, but I'm going to pick on White Van here. White Van is moving goods around. I'm going to examine the locations for this track, and it's come up with, and again that depot perspective, it's only come up with another 9 candidates. And one of them is very interesting. I picked this one because it comes kind of top at the list, but also actually the investigators that gave us the data that did this investigate this human smuggling ring, they actually told me about 3 of these locations and how important they were to the case, and this is one of them, and our tools just found it, which I'm pretty excited about. So we'll zoom in on this. We'll zoom in on this. It's the wrong one. I'm not that excited about this one. I'm excited about this one, sorry. And you can see I've got a polygon drawn here and a couple boxes here. It's an interesting spot. I will then go and again get that shared location profile for this. And let me just supersize that here. So here we've got the same view again. Geography's here in the little map. We've got the calendars across the top here, and it's showing all the targets that had any activity at this location. It's shown us to the first interaction, an interesting interaction. Go to the next week, and we've got what our tool has decided to be the depot type behavior, which is really the 16th. Get back to that. The 16th White Van was there. Then the fall after 6 hours, but within 7 days, Copper Titan showed up here. So we're saying, ooh, we think we've got a hit here. Now, I do actually know what's going on at this location. This is a storage house, and the criminals were buying mattresses in bulk and dropping them off in a self-storage. And then as they went and got these girls that were coming in from Russia or whatever, they picked them up at the bus terminal. They'd need to house them in various places, and civilians' houses around, and they would go and grab a mattress from this location and then take it to the place where the girls were going to be billeted, I guess would be the right word, and they'd keep that up. So they bought mattresses in bulk, they'd stored them at this location, and then they'd come back over time to get them. So here Copper Titan is a Titan pickup truck is coming back to get a mattress, he's coming back to get another one, and on it goes. And this is actually a little bit interesting to look at. So it's Copper Titan is doing all his work there, and after a while here, and I know this isn't too much to do with our tool, but after a while here, the guys operating here shift, and it's no longer Copper Titan that's doing the dirty work after a while. And maybe the shift happens down here. It's actually now Black Titan is coming, and he's picking up the mattresses, and so you can kind of see the shift here in the operations of this crew of guys as they move roles around. So again, a canned demonstration here. It's something I did know about. That's why I wanted to bring it to your attention. But the tool can be used to find dead drops. Again, we don't have much dead drop data, but it is good for that, and it's also good to find this concept that we found around depots. So that's a wrap up of the overview of the tool and how you use it, and the value of it. I believe is just the some of the. I don't believe that it's almost possible that you can take these tracks. A bunch of these are just huge tracks. They were given us 6 months worth of data on all these vehicles, so they, to manually process 6 months worth of data for these vehicles, and it was 5-second fixed data. Then do an end-to-end correlation of the 7 of them against 7 and find where they are meeting, find dead drops in there, and all in a matter of minutes find all the candidates. I mean, that's I think that's fairly revolutionary, and the feedback we're getting from the market that this could be for those who have this tracker density in a region, could be a game-changing technology. So I hope you found the overview of our multi-track compare module and our advanced multi-target correlation module interesting. I hope I explained it in a way that you can at least get a high-level understanding of what it does, and also as a little bit of a tutorial on how you can evaluate the software when you get a hold of it. We believe it's a pretty powerful tool, and we're very excited to have the opportunity to let you take a look at it. If you have any questions, the contact information is on this slide, or just go through the regular conduit. Thank you very much.